Not sure what Spanos was thinking from the beginning. I just don't. For years, the Chargers left L.A. after what was it, 1 or 2 seasons? Was it 2 seasons or one?
One. It was one.
Okay, so there for 1 year. In the process, the Rams move in. Well, Rams were already there, but the Raiders move in. They move out. But there's a large Raider fan base there. I hate to say it, but there is. Okay, a large chunk of Rams fans stuck around. Other people out there fell in love with the Cowboys and the 49ers and so on and so forth. But one thing, being AFC West rivals, Raiders, Chargers, LA fans were already pretty much raised to hate the Chargers.
Yeah.
And you move the team to Los Angeles, and it doesn't surprise me at all they've had struggles. And plus, everybody knows how Spanos treated it.
Yeah.
And so I just can't help but wonder, is it even possible to win? I had this team going 15-1. In hindsight, being 2020, I was naive with it because there's just too much turmoil that team has to face day in and day out. There's no way a human being, a group of 53, 54 men, can avoid all that garbage, can avoid looking in the StubHub Center and seeing most of the fans there are opposing fans.
I know that we talked about this all last season, but it's the same thing. And, you talked about LA fans were raised to hate San Diego fans, and it's the same vice versa. So, in baseball, it was Padres versus Dodgers, and that was a big rivalry and still is. And so San Diego is always raised to hate LA. LA's raised to hate San Diego. They're rivals. That's just how sports work. And then when you throw one into the other market, how are you going to win on either side? San Diego doesn't want to go to LA, and LA doesn't want your San Diego team. So, they definitely overplayed their hand. And, the smart move, and I'm not sure why nobody stepped in, but the smart move would have just had the Rams and Raiders in LA and kept the Chargers in San Diego. I mean, that was easy. Chargers, were in San Diego 55 years. I mean, that is a long time to uproot a team and try to start over again when Raiders have moved all over the place and have been in LA already, and they already have a big fan base there. So having the Rams and Raiders would be a huge rivalry, but here we are, and the Chargers are now the Los Angeles Chargers, and they're the rivals with the Rams. But I think it is tough. There is a lot of conversations going on at practice that they do have to work on a silent count at home because there will be opposing fans, and sometimes it'll be so loud it'll be almost like an away game at home in your own soccer stadium. So that's a real deal, and Rivers talked about it all last year, and the Chiefs were loud in week 1, and we'll see the next home game, but it is a real problem, and they have to deal with it in practice.
Well, getting back to team, and that's a really interesting conversation to have. I kind of wish we would talk more about it when we had the whole around the league conversation before.
Oh yeah,
but you guys do have a stud there by the name of Derwin James. I've seen you on Twitter raving about the guy. I'm seeing all kinds of good things about him. What difference is he making in that defense, and what should the Rams be doing to defend against him?
I mean, everything. It is unlike a lot of players you see coming out of the draft because they have him lining up deep as a free safety, but they have him near line of scrimmage in the slot as a slot corner. He's been the strong safety. He's been this faux linebacker. He has really done it all. In 2 weeks, he's led the team in sacks. And, if you watch Derwin James at Florida State, I joke that he was a top 5 pass rusher in this draft class, not as a safety. He's just so good as a pass rusher, and he's leading the team in sacks with guys like Melvin Ingram on this roster, who are paid to be pass rushers. So, it's tough because you always have to account for him. No matter where he is on the field, you have to point out Derwin James. And, I think the Rams will do that, and McVay will have them ready. But no matter where he's at, he could blitz at any point. He could be coming after the quarterback. He could be dropping back in coverage. But you have to keep an eye on him because Josh Allen did none of that and didn't point him out. And he almost had 4 or 5 sacks in that game. He finished with 1. It should have been 2. But he is an animal. And he's leading the race in Defensive Rookie of the Year so far. And he deserves it. He hasn't given up any big catches. And Gus Bradley last week just let him go. I mean, they took the cuffs off and just let him run. With rookies, you kind of tame them back, but Gus Bradley let him run last week, and he showed out and was the best player on the field last week. So he's going to be a real problem week in and week out. And, when you've got a pass rusher, you can kind of account for him. But, there's been times where Derwin James was lined up as a linebacker in nickel and blitzed from the linebacker spot and almost got a sack that way. So he's a guy you got to watch out for every single play.
Now, you also mentioned that Joey Bosa will make him better. What's the deal with Joey Bosa right now? How much longer should he be out?
They're saying he won't be there this Sunday. They say he's going to be out until October. It's a bone bruise, and those are the type of injuries that just linger. And, there was a chance he could play week 1, and then he got a second opinion last week, and he didn't show up in Buffalo. But, they think it's going to be about a 4 or 5 week recovery time. So good news for Rams fans. You won't see Joey Bosa. He should be back in October, but, it's one of those injuries you can't really account for. It's just as soon as he starts to feel better, he can play. But as of right now, the earliest he can show up is probably October.
Now, looking at these two teams together, matching up on the field, how do you see this game going? Chargers defense versus Rams offense, Rams defense versus Chargers offense. How do you see the matchups right now?
I started a second podcast previewing, upcoming matchups for the Chargers. So I watched both the Rams games against the Cardinals and Raiders, and it's hard to find an area where this Charger team is better than the Rams. I mean, this Rams team is so stacked. And, usually every week you just say, you know what, Chargers have the best corners in the league. They got Casey Hayward, who is one of the best corners in the league, if not the best, behind Jalen Ramsey or in front of him, depending on who you ask. And then you've got Trevor Williams, who's a top 15 corner on the outside. But then you've got Des King, who's a rookie and one of the best slot corners. But then when you talk about guys like Marcus Peter and Aqib Talib, who allowed 37 yards combined in the first 2 games, and then you add in Nickel Roby-Coleman in nickel. I mean, come on, man.
Sam Shields.
You throw in Sam Shields, who finally got a start and got a pick last week. I mean, it is insane. I mean, I guess you could maybe say tight end, only because Rams don't really feature their tight ends. They don't really feature Gerald Everett or Tyler Higbee. They didn't even have a catch week 1. Higbee had a touchdown pass, but 2 catches, 20 yards in 2 games. But that's not really their game. It's not, even when you say maybe Virgil Green and Antonio Gates are a better duo than Higbee Everett. But what does that even mean? That's not even the Rams' strength. So it is so tough. This team is so stacked. I think if you're trying to find a way for the if the Chargers were to win this game, it would be to try to get out in front of a lead early, because the first 2 games, it seemed like to me watching it was the Raiders scored early, but basically once the Rams got a lead, they bled out the clock and just drained seconds off the clock and beat down the defense and let Wade Phillips and his defense rest on the sideline and put up points and slowly kill you. And they drowned the Cardinals last week, just draining clock. And, I think the defense only had like 35 snaps last week. I mean, they weren't even on the field.
Yeah.
So,
go on.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, it seems like, they want to ground and pound you. The Rams want to kind of drain the clock, and they want to just beat it out of you. And that's what they've done for 2 weeks. And if somehow, the Chargers can get out to a lead early and hopefully become a shootout and put some pressure on Goff, maybe the Chargers have a chance. But this is a really tough matchup, and the Rams are very good. I know that's no surprise to you. You watch them every week. But, man, watching this team is unreal. I
think the Rams are special this year. I think they are. I think when you look at their secondary itself, it might be, in terms of its starters and with its depth, it might be the best secondary I've seen in a very long time. In terms of on paper, and I can't, I'm not going to be foolish enough to say that's what it is for real, but on paper, it is the best secondary I've seen in a very long time in the NFL. It's just so darn deep. So I really look at the Rams defense matchup with the Chargers as, can the Chargers attack that linebacking core and force them to make more plays? Because right now the Rams are relying on that front defensive line and then that strong secondary to allow the linebackers to roam and do some of the things they do. What will happen should the Chargers put more pressure on those linebackers? The Raiders did that in the first half of week 1. And that's how they got there. They just pounded the ball. And for whatever reason, the Raiders went away from that. But this Rams team, what they love to do, though, is you kind of hit it with the Chargers. That with the Bills game, they didn't really they didn't show the kill factor. The Rams have a kill factor with them. They want to end you. They want to end you quickly, and they get a lead. They're going to do everything they can to bleed you out, and it's painful. So, for me, I from the Chargers, I'm looking to attack those linebackers first, get them moving away. That's a young core. Mark Barron's probably not playing, so that's what I'd be doing. Offensive defense.
Yeah, and that's I was going to kind of work my way back to that, but yeah, that's the only weakness, and I think the big part of where the Chargers can attack them. I mean, Jared Cook, you saw Jared Cook, he went for 180, 9 catches, in week 1. Attacking the middle of the field is what they did against the Bills too. They saw the mic for the Bills is Tremaine Edmonds, who's a rookie, and they've got their will is Matt Milano, and they just made him run and cover. And I think they're going to want to do that again this week. And they did it with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, their duo out of the backfield. And they did it with Virgil Green, their tight end. And they ran Keenan Allen and Tyrell Williams and crossers in the middle of the field, making those linebackers run and cover. And making everybody match up one-on-one and making everybody have to win their matchups. And, most linebackers can't run with the running backs that the Chargers have. And they do pretty good in the middle of the field. So that is definitely a plus in the Chargers column, and that's something they can definitely attack. But, every other part of the field, whether you're talking about the defensive line and Sue and Donald, I mean, can they hold up long enough to get a pass in the middle of the field? And, if Talib and Marcus Peters, who, obviously coming from the AFC West, Charger fans know all about that duo, if they're covering, can you get anything completed? Because they're giving up no yards. I mean, they're playing so lights out that, not that you don't test them, because I think you still have to go after Peters and Talib. But, those who didn't follow Peters in Kansas City, Peters had Rivers' number. I mean, every game Peters was picking off Rivers, and it seemed like he knew what was going on. And Rivers was gambling a lot, and Peters was winning a lot. So we'll see again in a different jersey how this works out. But, yeah, I think you're right. I think the middle of the field, attacking the Rams linebackers is a positive for the Chargers. But, again, there's a lot to like about this Rams defense. And will Rivers have enough time? Because he's not mobile enough to get out of the pocket. Everybody knows that. He's a statue there. So will the offensive line give him enough time to complete those passes?
Well, one more thing, too. You kind of hit it there, too, turnovers. This Rams team will destroy you if you turn this ball over. I know it's cliche. Everybody knows, hey, turn the ball over, you're going to lose. With this Rams team, they will make you pay over and over and over again. They don't make mistakes when they take the ball back. They just don't. That's something they did last year. They made teams pay over and over again. It's happening this year. You just cannot turn the. Phillip Rivers has to have a perfect game. He really does.
Yeah, I think on all phases the Chargers have to have a perfect game to win on Sunday, because whether it's containing Gurley or trying to find some way to stop the trio of Woods and Kupp and Cooks, because Tyreek Hill burnt him in week 1. And you've got 3 pretty quick wide receivers now, not just one. You've got 3, and that's where the corners struggle, is with speed. I mean, they're physical and they will be in your hip pocket, but with speed, they have some problems. And so we'll see there on defense too when the Rams are on offense, and then on special teams. I don't know about you. I don't know if you've seen anything anymore from JoJo Natson, but last week that kid looked dangerous. And that's not even Farrell Cooper, who's your usual returner. Natson is crazy electric.
There were several of us who were surprised that he didn't make the team, because he was doing this all over the preseason. But in the preseason, you're doing this against second, third teamers, fourth teamers. He can't. But we still thought this guy's got something. You better keep him. And then he comes in now and does what he does. And you're thinking, okay, the Rams cannot let this guy go. If they let him go again, somebody will take him. You can't just drop him now and put him back to the practice squad. Somebody will come get him.
And you know who will? It'll be the Chargers, because they are struggling for a returner, and they're always scouring the wire for the next punt and kick returner, because they do not have it right now.
And then it surprises me that they didn't go get him. I mean, the Rams are across town. They knew what Natson was doing. I'm surprised they didn't go get him. I really am.
Yeah.
I know you got to go. Real quick, flipping it around, the Chargers defense now matching up against the Rams offense. What do the Chargers have to do to win this? To win this game against the offense?
It's going to be tough. I mean, I think they have to put as much pressure on Goff as they can, because I'm not sure it's going to be tough winning against, like I mentioned, against those three speedy receivers. We talked about the tight ends and not having to really worry about that. But, Todd Gurley, they haven't really been tested in the run game. We'll see how good they are. And they've done pretty good with receiving running backs, with McCoy and Kareem Hunt not really getting anything after the catch. So we'll see how they do with Gurley, but it is tough because